Patrick, the one thing we talked about a few times, you talked about as well, is the attack and output and how you can contribute to that. There's been a clear shift from you and Eddie as well this season in terms of just getting on the score sheet really and also just helping out. What do you attribute that most for?
Yeah, I think obviously coming off the back of last year, you saw the impact that Sam and Hani both had in terms of goals and assists, and even Dan and Andy. And obviously after reflecting with the team and with the coaches and myself, that is obviously something that I and Eddie as midfielders wanted to add to the team. And I think it starts from the profiles we've kind of brought in as well. For me, having two very aggressive centre-backs with Jason and Max has kind of allowed Eddie and I to get up the pitch a little bit more. And then at the same time, got quality players around me who are kind of learning the ways of my movements and I'm learning their movements. So at the end of the day, I just think it's about getting in the box as much as possible, because last year we were kind of restricted with that a little bit more in terms of our setup. So yeah, I find myself more in the box this year, which is a part of the system too. And yeah, I'm happy to get 2 assists tonight, I guess.
And then just how big of an opportunity you have ahead of you with the World Cup looming here in 2026.
Yeah, obviously 2026 is a big year with the World Cup and being part of the national team. Previously, I'm definitely, I like to consider myself in contention for that. However, I'm not trying to think too far ahead. Obviously, this is a week-by-week industry. You can't really get too sold on the idea that you're in. I'm just trying to prove myself to my coach here, BJ, and hopefully that kind of facilitates my national team ambitions. And there's still a camp coming up, so I'm trying to push for that. But I think all in all, like I said, my performances here will hopefully facilitate my ambitions there, and I'm just trying to play the best I can for Nashville.
Patrick, yesterday when Christian talked to us, he kind of said he put the last week against FC Dallas on his shoulders after he missed those 2 chances late in the second half. Did you notice what did you know? Did you notice anything maybe different with him? Just leading up to this game, and maybe with his motivation or preparation or anything like that?
Yeah, I do think he's been a little bit more direct in training, which is what we want. Obviously, being on the right hand side, I do communicate with him and Andy in particular a lot. And I remember last week at half time, during the Dallas game, I told him, Chris, just shoot, bro. We've got players on the back post, and obviously he wants to help the team any way possible. And having Hani and Sam there, I think he's really really selfless at the moment, which is great. But yeah, this week in training he's been a lot more direct, scoring a lot more goals, and you saw it today. He had a few opportunities where he kind of let it rip, and I'm very happy for him to get his goal, kind of get him going, and he's been a great addition out wide, and I'm looking forward to see many more goals from him.
Now, obviously, you have a big game in the CONCACAF Championship against Inter Miami coming up on Wednesday. I guess what enabled you to keep your focus on this game and get the win instead of maybe overlooking Minnesota and looking towards that game?
Yeah, like I said, obviously it's a week-by-week thing, and for us, we're really relishing the opportunity to play Miami again. We've played them a handful of times over the last 6 months, and we know what to expect, which makes us more prepared than what we have been in the past. And like you see in the performances out there, we're a team that's growing, a team that's getting better, and what better way to go up against the best, obviously with them winning the MLS Cup last year, and compete and show the league what we're made of, and the CONCACAF Confederation.
Patrick, you guys just have a lot more depth this year. I'm curious from your perspective what it's like when you're up 3-1 and you look over and you see guys like Warren and Woobens and Ahmed coming on to kind of hold out the win.
Yeah, obviously that's a strength of this team and something that we've grown. Like the coaches and Mike obviously say, they want to lift the floor, I guess. So from my time here, and since I've been here for the year and a half, I've definitely seen an improvement in the depth of the team. The training sessions, the standards all going up, and we've got a young, hungry squad, which motivates all of us. And you guys have probably been around, you see lads always doing extras and always kind of putting in the work. So it's really good to have a competitive squad, but a competitive squad that has everyone's best interest as well. So no matter whether you're starting or you're coming off the bench, I think the intentions are really good, and it's a nice feeling to see kind of quality players coming on the pitch.
And then we've seen a lot more of midfielders kind of dropping into the back line and setting up like that 3-2 look. What's that been like for you, and are you kind of enjoying maybe a different role than you've had before?
Yeah, Obviously, it's a part of the kind of diversifying my game a little bit. I know I can be a pretty good box to box. I've got a good engine, but sometimes dropping deeper allows me to see the picture a little bit clearer and kind of pick my moments as well and get a few touches, get a bit more confidence on the ball. And for us, it's about being obviously tactically flexible, like you saw last week. Eddie and I were a little higher up pitch and trying to work in between the lines and make runs in behind. So, if we can be as unpredictable as possible and be effective at those changes, I think it's going to make us a very strong team. So, yeah.
Patrick, kind of in the more attacking side of things, he's talking about dropping back. For you against Dallas, when you were kind of going up more into the attacking third and now being in that box-to-box role, and talking about Christian Espinoza earlier, going with him, how do you see the game in your eyes when it comes to just going up against defenses? Can you see the game a lot more clear rather than last season where you're more box-to-box and more dishing off assists to other teammates?
Yeah, for sure. I think when you're in those positions, you get to kind of get a bit more familiar. I said to some of the boys here after the Dallas game, there was an opportunity where I kind of could have shot in the box, and for me that's about having the box instinct, and obviously last year I was a little bit more deeper on transition, so for me the more opportunity I get to get higher up the field, I think the better my awareness gets, and I get to grow that part of my game, because obviously you can't do that without exposure. So in training I'm trying to get forward and trying to get in the box within reason, and I have the trust of Eddie to know that if I'm going to progress and try and get these attacking positions, he's going to hold, and vice versa. So yeah, it's just about being familiar in these positions and just keep going forward.
And then after that as well, looking at just how this team from last season to this season, just sometimes the passes, you can kind of cut down a passing lane and just go on to the next guy, just where you guys can kind of switch transition pretty quick. How much of an emphasis has that been in training this past offseason from year 1 to year 2 for BJ and also for you?
Yeah, obviously BJ's had a longer time with us now, so I think the DNA is really starting to show. And to be honest, I don't really think these are things we train. I think this is more the DNA kind of coming through, and just the hidden messages that have been integrated in our meetings and our preparation and our just the way we want to play. So you see Hani, a very direct player. He's always calling for the ball. He always wants it. So, if we have the opportunity to go forward, he's always in a good position. Chris as well, very direct, and Sam obviously wants to get goals. So when you have those profiles, and as a midfielder, when you do receive the ball, you've always got options to get attacking. So, it's a part of who we want to be. But at the same time, you do need players to be able to control the play and kind of slow it down. So it's about me being able to manage that too.
Patrick, you might think that you probably answered the same question again and again, but I'm curious about, in the first game, you did a lot of what you did tonight, not in the second game, in terms of coming into started transition very, very low, and then bringing the ball out, which is honestly, in our eyes, different from what you used to do. But then in the second game, you couldn't do that. Was it just a matter of an issue with for the formation, or it was just the rival that didn't allow that kind of play?
I think it was a bit about personnel, profiles, tactics. Obviously, Dallas with a back five, you need players kind of further up the field and in between the lines. And we had Matty playing, who's a great six. He's got really good distribution, and for a young player, he's quality. So I think the way we set up kind of wanted to facilitate a bit more of a sole six and having two kind of 3-10s with Hani, Eddie, and I. But yeah, I think BJ's really put a lot of trust in us as players to be able to just see the picture on the field. And there were a few times where I kind of dropped down and tried to receive the ball, but at the end of the day, if they're not going to press and they have players along the back line, I want to be higher up the field. So that's just something that I identified and the coaches identified. So I think it was a bit more tactical rather than a feeling. But at the same time, sometimes you got to play off feeling, and that's something that we're trying to work on too.
Now I'm trying to be get in the mind of a player when you're in the field, like now game like tonight. I mean, from outside looking in, you probably say, well, I mean, the team's already winning 3-1. It was difficult the way it looked. The game looked at the Minnesota was, well, you never know, but it was difficult to look at them coming back, especially in the score.
Yeah.
Now, when you're inside playing, maybe in the heat of the moment, do you ever think that maybe there's a time for any of you, especially you and Eddie, who had run so much, to come out and kind of rest a little bit for the next game, or not?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I want to play every minute of every game. It's up to the coach to pull me off, and I like to take responsibility out there, and I think when I am out there with Eddie or with Matty or Ryan, whoever's there, I want to be a leader. So for me to come off, it's for a reason. You know, but if I'm fit and healthy, I'll stay on every game. And yeah, I guess 3-1 is a good scoreline, but you know, in this sport, a 2-goal lead is also the most dangerous. You know, so something that we had to protect, and I think Alex in the midfield too did a great job with Eddie and I, and everyone that kind of came on closed the game well. So yeah, I'd like to stay on. I'd like to be a leader, and happy to contribute to the win.
Thanks, Patrick. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.